Hi, just a quick message from me, Stu, before we get going. Firstly, there's a lot of political conversation this week, so feel free to check the show notes, which should be on your podcast app or on Podbean or Spotify, wherever you consume this content, and it will direct you to the sections of the show that are just about games. Secondly, I talk about slavery during Roe vs. Wade, just to clarify that I acknowledge, and should have acknowledged in the podcast, the impact and continued impact of slavery against BAME people. In this context, I was just talking about imposing slavery upon the general population, and specifically towards people whose freedoms are going to be more recently curtailed by this, i.e. people who can get pregnant and LGBTQ plus people. This does not mean that I exclude the racist aspect of enslavement, but I should have acknowledged it directly in the podcast. So apologies for that. And with that, on with the show.
Hello and welcome to the MHG podcast. As usual, the world seems to be messed up and a dark, miserable place at times. So we're here to bring a bit of joy and a bit of colour into the world. I'm Bradley and I'm joined by Stu. How you doing, Stu?
Pretty good, yeah. Dedicated to bringing a bit of colour into the world by putting up on Twitter a picture of my latest PS2 memory card, because I'm all about the brand new technology. But it's a bright orange one. Orange is my favourite colour. It's a Taiko no Tatsujin branded one. Absolutely gorgeous. I was supposed to tag MHG in it. I forgot to. But check out my Twitter and you'll see that. I'm going to put lots more kind of bright, interesting, colourful, strange bits of tech, gaming tech up there, just to try and lighten people's day a little bit.
I used to love collecting crap memory cards.
Yeah.
There's something about them. I had like the translucent ones and stuff like that were really cool. The ones you could buy for a fraction of a cost at some dodgy market somewhere that may or may not work. Who knows? And then going into Game Station or a local indie game shop and buying a PS2 memory card because someone's updated all the kits and teams and everything on Pro Evolution Soccer.
Yes. There is a kind of fascinating subsection of gaming that is entirely about memory cards. Like, not just how they look and not just what they can do, but how they were exploited and how they evolved. And they kind of only existed for a relatively short time, really.
Yes.
As just for game saves, you know. And one of the reasons they've started to disappear is because they're a really good vector for exploiting stuff, so you can hack into the console. So they've fallen out of favour a lot, and they're not needed really because of hard drives. But for a time, for probably about 6 or 7 years, they were this really big thing, and they were so expensive. But
yes,
like the Japanese ones that I'm getting now are so cool because like they're dirt cheap from Japan, but there's like translucent ones that are official that would never have seen the light of day over here. I've got like a lime acid green official PS1 one.
Nice.
It's so good, and there's loads of stuff like that. So yeah, I absolutely love it. I love it.
Oh, although Microsoft sort of brought that back with the like the hard drive cards you kind of get, expansion cards for the Xbox Series X and stuff.
Yeah.
They're overpriced and you plug them in.
Yes, very similar actually. They're always overpriced. That's the one constant.
Yeah, it's proprietary, so of course it's overpriced.
Yep.
And to be honest, when you look at the PS2 and then you look at what Sony did with the Vita and stuff, Sony now know how to do overpriced proprietary storage. So just to change things up from the fun of memory cards to something that's just utterly depressing at the moment, and that's the Roe versus Wade Supreme Court overturn decision. And the reaction of many who are praising it and seem to be reveling in the idea of taking away all, women's rights to choose what they do with their body. And then the hypocrisy that's come with other people who are saying how bad this is, but they're not realising the irony that they don't want trans people to have that same autonomy, and it's just a mess. An utter mess. In America, you've had all kinds of things going on, but it did lead to the best put down I think I've seen on Twitter ever. And that was Lawrence Fox was posting his absolute crap as usual, anti-LBGT stuff, general right-wing bollockry or whatever, bullshittery, whatever you want to call it. Including posting a pride flag decked out as a Nazi symbol. But anyway, but the best put down was Kathy Burke, who retweeted something he put and put Lawrence Fox is the obvious reason as to why abortion should exist.
Yes,
bless
indeed.
Kathy Burke.
Yeah, she's a national treasure, really, and
yes,
it's just unbelievable. I mean, it's hard to know even where to start to talk about something like this, because
this is why I want to put it in now and not dwell on it and try and make sense of it later, because it's not our position to. For a start, no. It's not for us to say what's what and say how women should be feeling about this in any way, shape or form. But I just can't get my head around not allowing women to choose what they do with their body. It's disgusting.
Yes, and just to quickly qualify as well, we mean any people who can get pregnant. Just from that side.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't even know where to start, because it reverses everything that the Western world particularly, but really most of the world, has gone towards for hundreds of years, at least, decades, since the 60s. And it's so against the way that people think in that country, I mean, there are a subset of people who think like that, but it's a tiny, tiny proportion of people who actually want that, but they hold all the power. And so it disproportionately makes you think of an entire country being backward or going backward, when really they're not. They're being held hostage by a cadre of people with far too much power who are just basically despots. And it's insane that we can be in that situation. And if they weren't so big and they weren't so powerful and they weren't so white and they didn't speak English, this is the sort of country that would be invaded by other countries to stop them behaving like this.
By the country in question.
Yeah, exactly. So it's too big to even contemplate how big it is, really. And I think really from the sort of, January 6th thing with the Capitol building, and the way that damaged democracy over there so badly, everything is in massive turmoil. And I think we're going to see things get really bad over there, to be quite honest. I don't want it to, but I think that's what's going to happen.
No, and then you've got the likes of the UK, under a current government, will look at what's going on over there and see what they can get away with. But there's two things I've seen really that really sort of stood out to me. That's one is going, it's all well and good, the abortion ban in America. But what happens the first time a high-ranking Republican official gets their mistress pregnant?
Yeah.
What happens then?
Yeah.
Do they own it, or do they get away with getting an abortion?
Yeah.
If the woman wants to get an abortion, fine, because I think anyone should do what they want to do. It's their body. But when does the hypocrisy start? How are we talking? Days, weeks, months, years? What do you reckon?
Minutes, because it's always about taking away human rights. Is ultimately about slavery. It's about wage slavery. It's about gender slavery. It's about LGBTQ plus slavery. It's about marginalising, dispossessing, and turning people into the lowest class possible at their weakest point, so that they can just be exploited and that the people at the top can just cream off all of the money and all of the power. And that's what it all boils down to. They don't, people don't really care about the Bible. They don't really care about children. They don't really care what gay people do. All they care about is subjugating so that they can exploit them. And that's what this is all about. You know, it's very notable that the 13th Amendment kept in the fact that you could have that people who were in prison could still be used for slave labor, you know, and then there's a whole huge amount of the American economy that's based around that. And then there's wage slavery, which is often based around immigrant workforces, and then there's slavery in the home, where people are forced to be the homemaker, and they're stuck in that situation because they can't have an abortion sometimes, you know, and they have to have children that they didn't necessarily want. And there's all sorts. It's all just a vector of control. It's just a way of maintaining power over people based upon a rule of slavery, and it's disgusting.
Yeah, the other point I saw as well, which made it sort of like, I think the one way you could get them to actually go, oh, maybe an abortion ban's a bad idea, is to hit them financially. And I saw this thing on TikTok. I can't remember who the person was that posted it. I watched it last night. They was basically doing a list of things. So basically, if a fetus is a baby, then, and they pointed out, if fetus is actually a baby according to these laws, then I should be getting child support from the moment I get pregnant. I should be, if the father doesn't want to be involved, they should be doing child support from the moment I'm pregnant. I should be able to claim life insurance on that fetus from the moment I'm pregnant, so that if I miscarriage, I get a payout, etc., 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 and showing all the hypocrisy that comes with saying that a fetus is an actual live baby, so to speak. Yeah. And I get that things are alive. You know, technically it's a live thing, but this is why we have these cut-off points, because certain parts of the body aren't developed at any point. And now what we've got as well, I know this is ridiculous and it was meant to be a somewhat funny story I saw. You've got some people attempted to, like one or two people, you know, attempted to sue their parents because they was born against their will, because they didn't ask to be born, which is ridiculous, quite frankly. But if you're getting more and more children that are going to be born that the parents don't want at the same time, what resentment's that going to cause between child and parent? Yeah. You know, I won't lie, both my kids are unplanned. I love them, but we had the option that, you know, if it wasn't right for both of us, then we could have done something about it. To have that taken away, no, it's just disgusting. Are you expecting sort of like people who can't afford it are the same people that can't afford contraception, possibly? So what are they meant to do? Get pregnant and not be able to raise a child properly? It's the whole thing is a mess. And I think as soon as they realise how financially screwed it could make, you know, the country, that's when I think they'll try and backtrack on things. I don't know. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess over there, over here, everywhere at the moment.
Yes, it absolutely is. Yeah, and you know, as you say, taking away bodily autonomy, it is a capitalist goal. Well, it's a despotic goal as well. And as I mentioned, the entire point behind it is so that they can keep people trapped in working in the way that they do and not change. So it takes away the workers' rights and people's rights, and it sticks them in a position where they can be manipulated. And the thing is, it's like we solved all of these problems. We went, okay, well, we live in a capitalist society where, you know, you're expected to work a 9 to 5. I'm talking in general terms, but you're expected to work a 9 to 5. You have bosses who get more wealth than you. You know, it's like a feudal system that's kind of evolved into something else. You know, we don't barter. We don't have a barter economy. We don't own our own land. You know, it's all working for something, for currency that doesn't really exist, but we collectively agree that it does. And we went through all of that and went, okay, well, if we're going to do that, then we have to have things like insurance, and we have to have things like abortion, and we have to have things like, you know, social housing, and every way that we live is constructed around that, and all those gains are gains to work within that framework. And they're the only way that people can exist within that framework. So when you start taking them away, because this I am actually getting to a point, when you start taking those freedoms away, what you're saying is we're gonna make you work in this society, but we're not going to give you any benefits for the society that we've created, and that is slavery. And so that is the point. We're at the point where it's tipping into general strikes, riots, secession, all the things that you'd think that would pull apart your civil war, that can pull a country apart. If they keep pushing these things, that's the end goal. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I still think we're going to, whether it's our lifetime, so to speak, while we're still able to participate, or whether it's our kids' lifetimes, there's going to be a global uprising. There really is, because it cannot carry on what's going on. More and more people are beginning to sit up, and the younger people are starting to sit up and go, this is not right. This is not how it should be. And you can almost sense that the old white man is clinging on to what they have with as much as they can, and trying to almost burn the house down before they're kicked out.
Yeah. Yes, it's a great analogy, and I think that's exactly right. It's like their grip on power is slipping. It's slipping and slipping, so they kind of exploit the paths to power that they already have. So Trump is a perfect example of, exploiting his way to the top and then utilising that to foment hatred and division and all of the things that are great for creating profit for one person rather than a group of people or a society or a culture. And it's kind of going, it's the equivalent of going, well, like you said, still burning the house down as you're being evicted, really. And the hope is that, yes, that will change. Now, unfortunately, human beings are idiots, and all of these things are cyclical, and nobody ever learns their lesson. And so it's depressing to remember that this will happen again in the future. But we can at least take heart in the fact that we are hopefully entering an age where there's going to be more enlightenment, and it will swing back towards the left, and being a more equitable society for a while. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed indeed. Even I'm not sure how to segue. I've got a tasteless one, but I don't think I'll go with that one. It won't seem quite right.
Something about capitalism and games, maybe. Something about acquiring stuff.
I don't know. I'm going to go... I tell you what. Do you know what else can burn a house down if you leave it on for too long?
What?
A video games console.
Very true.
That was a poor segue, I know, but I had to find a way of segueing.
Good enough.
So, Stu, what you been playing?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, exactly. Loads of the consoles. I've got enough juice going through them to burn most houses down. And what's interesting, there's a YouTube channel called DIY Perks.
I like him.
Yes, he's great, and he's created a slim PS5.
Yes,
and it kind of is and it kind of isn't, because it's got a massive cooling block separate to the actual console. But if you want to have a look about thermodynamics and pretty consoles and stuff like that, check that out, because it's really cool. But I've also this week got hold of a console that's very, 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 very slim and keeps its power on the outside, and that's a PS2. I got a PS2 Slim, cheap, and mainly because it came with a pad, and I needed a pad from a PS1, and it was so cheap that it was like, oh, well, I'll just get that. I think it was like 15 quid or something for everything, like
nice.
The machine, the power supply, the cable, the pad, it was dirt cheap. And the first thing I did was soft mod it, because you can soft mod them these days, dead easy. Well, not dead easy, but comparatively easy. And then once it's done, you can play games off USB and blah, 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 in any region and all that sort of stuff. And what I've been doing is I've been playing some light gun games, because I've got a GunCon. I haven't got a GunCon 2. I'm going to pick one up when I see one cheap enough. You know me, it's got to be cheap before I'll go for it. But I've got a GunCon that I got a while ago for about a £5. As you can see, big theme emerging on cheapness. And it works perfectly with practically all GunCon 2 games. So I've been playing finally, Time Crisis 2 to begin with. And I have never played the PS2 version of Time Crisis 2. Only ever played the arcade one, and that means obviously not playing for long because it's geared to steal all your quarters or 10p's in this country. So it's quite hard, but it's not massively hard. It's quite well balanced, but that doesn't matter. The important thing is it's amazing. It's just such a good game. I think me and you have agreed in the past that the Time Crisis series, they're basically the best gun games, There's loads of competition as well. Virtua Cop, House of the Dead, the gun barrel games, all of those sorts of things are just really, really excellent. And there are a few outliers that aren't part of franchises that are really brilliant as well. But yeah, Time Crisis, my goodness. So for those who don't know, and there won't be many, but the quirk is you have a foot pedal in the arcade, and you can actually simulate that with a second pad in the home, where you go into cover by pressing it, and it also reloads. And what that does is it gives the tactical advantage of, although you're on rails, you can actually switch where you are in cover or out in the open, and also it reloads quite quickly, and you're reloading when you're not under fire. And it's called Time Crisis because it's against the clock, so you can't just hide under cover for the entire time and be invulnerable. So there you go, that's a précis of what the series is. And then it's the general thing of, you're government agents and you're shooting terrorists. The only very, very slight negative about Time Crisis as a series is its premise isn't very exciting. So the graphics are they're okay, but they're just functional. They're terrorists in urban settings. Versus House of the Dead, which is monsters and vampires and zombies and all that caper. But other than that, the precision, the way the GunCon works is so tight, so precise, so satisfying. The enemy placement, the types of weaponry, all the hidden secrets in the levels, everything that it does is just really, really great. And it's just fantastic. It's something that most people can't play because it only works with CRT TVs unless you're faffing around with lots of extra kit. So yeah, that's what I've been playing on my little 14-inch portable TV, playing that and loving it.
Nice. I'm jealous. So I've got a question for you. You said obviously you could replicate the pedal press using a second controller.
Yes.
So theoretically, say you was able to get hold of, let's just say, an old Xbox 360 steering wheel and pedal combo. Get rid of the steering wheel, don't need that. Take the pedals, cut them up a bit and stuff like that. Could you technically mod a pedal to work with a PS2 controller and actually have a pedal press?
Yes, and I'm going to probably try it myself, actually.
Yes.
I've been thinking about it, and I was having a look online briefly before we came on, and somebody had done it with a drum pedal, for electric drum set. And
you can even use the ones I suppose you get with like Rock Band and stuff, couldn't you as well?
Yeah, and there'll be all sorts of really, really, really cheap foot pedals that are out there because they are just a micro switch on a hinge. That's all it is. And I think what they did was, rather than trying to go wire it into a pad and blah blah blah, they wired it directly into the gun. So it will just be whatever signal is coming off the button for going into hiding. It's just that signal piped out to a switch, and that's it. So
nice.
Theoretically, dead simple. So I'm totally going to look at that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I know you because you modded the my flight stick, and you done all that with the hole drilling and everything. So I know you're competent at this stuff. So yeah, I can't wait to see if you can do that. I sense a forum thread coming.
Yeah, very possibly. Yeah, I'll keep the progress going on here as well and on the Twitter. But
and film it. We can put it on the YouTubes.
Yeah. I'll give it a go. Yeah, it's I love doing that. The bit I'm most crap at is cutting plastic. I really don't like doing it, but you have to sometimes. Yeah. But the electronic side, I think it's going to be a comparative doddle, to be honest. So yeah, I'm going to give it a go.
See, what you need to do is replicate the guy who does DIY perks, where you look at the start of the video and go, "Oh, I could do this," and then about 10 minutes in, you just go, "Oh,
nah, mate,
no."
Yeah. Yeah, completely.
This is beyond DIY now, really, isn't it?
Exactly.
Because he's got all the equipment he needs, but he makes such good stuff that I go, oh, I could have a go at look at. No, I can't.
I know, I do that. I get through the instructions and I'm about 10 minutes in. I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. And then by 20 minutes, I'm like, nah, sod this.
Because he has to get out some kind of laser cutter thing that. Who's got one of them?
I know.
It's like, he's got one of those just laying around.
I know.
He goes, yeah, just do this, you just do this. You get these bits of copper sheets that you can use. That's great. They cost a fortune. Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. I was thinking of doing his one where you can create natural looking light using old TV panels. And it's like, yeah, you can get them for like a £5, but you need like 700 quid's worth of power tools to do the work. So, no.
Yeah. He could make a fortune actually doing custom builds for people.
Yeah, he probably does. If he's not an engineer already making a ton of money, and also he's got like, oh, God knows how many patrons. He's got like hundreds of patrons. So he must be making a fortune already. And he gets sponsored.
Talking of hundreds of patrons, actually.
Segue.
Oh, no, this is good. If you're listening to this, we thank you for listening. We're doing something. We've had a Patreon for quite a while, but we've not utilised it because we could never think about what extras could we put on there, what extra content could we hide behind a paywall, because neither of us want to do behind paywall content. We don't think it's fair to do that. So what we've done, this is mainly so we can keep the lights on, paid server costs, etc., maybe get some improved equipment down the line, is we've got 3 tiers on our Patreon, a £3 tier, a £5 tier and a £7 tier per month. And all those tiers are for us supporting us. If you like what we do, you've got some spare cash, and you want to help, then you can support us on one of those tiers. But we do want to give back in some way. So what we are going to start doing is once a month, we are going to give away something video game related, whether that's a box game of something, whether, I don't know, maybe, if we get enough Patreons, maybe she'll do a custom build or something that we can give away, if we can cover it and all stuff like that. It might even just be a couple of game codes and things like that. Once a month, if you're subscribed, you're automatically entered. 1 entry for a tier 1, 2 entries for a tier 2, 3 entries for a tier 3. We will draw something out, someone will win. This month, we're giving away a box copy of Super Mario Strikers on the Nintendo Switch with a fancy poster, courtesy of Stu. But also what we'll do, between us at staff, we get a lot of leftover keys and things like that for various platforms, mainly on PC. If you're a Patreon supporter, check your inboxes. We're just going to throw random keys at you whenever. We can't give you much. We can't give you extra podcasts. We can't give you exclusive early access to YouTube videos. We don't have the ability to get all that done, the time to get all that done. But we want to give something. So if it's something you want to support us and you want potentially something in return, that's what we could give you. We're going to be doing monthly draws, weekly giveaways. Subscribe to us with the Patreon and you're automatically in. Link will be in the podcast description. It's also, if you're seeing it on the site, you can see it at the top of the page, the little P icon. So a little bit of housekeeping. If you want to win Super Mario Strikers by, let's say, I think we said like the 21st of next month, maybe give it 3 weeks, join in Patreon and we'll get you entered.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, no, I'm really pleased we're doing this. I really think it'll give back to the community. I mean, it's not even really designed for us to make, like you said, to make a lot of money. It's just to keep the lights on, really, and take the strain off by utilising what we already do. And I'd love to be able to do some little custom builds and stuff for people as well, because that would be like fun for me at the same time.
But just so people are aware, because I've been asked this in private before, and I've had people approach me. I will never accept sponsorship or ads or anything like that on the podcast, on the site, YouTube channel, or anything. Never is there going to be any ads or anything, because I believe a clean-looking site is the most important thing. So there's never going to be any of that. And I do run MHG at a loss every month. I can just about cope with it, but it isn't easy. Some months are more difficult than others, but I want this to keep going. I need it for me. That's important. But this is nothing's for profit. So what me and Stu discussed, and I think we like to be as open and clear as possible with different stuff like this. If we got 100 Patreons and we was putting in £500 a month, for example, we'd pay our hosting costs, and then whatever remains on the whole will go towards that month's giveaway. So if we get enough, we could well end up giving away games consoles and stuff like that if they're enough for you, if enough people support. If it's loading numbers, it'll be smaller giveaways, but there will always be something, and we're not in it to make a profit. We're not in it to make money for ourselves. We do this for the love of it. We just want to make sure that we can keep it going as long as possible and also give back.
Absolutely.
Right, I suppose I'll best talk about the game I was about to talk about before I managed to sidetrack myself.
Better have. Yeah.
So, please fix the road. And no, that's not an angry tweet to my local council. That's a puzzle game from Ariel. I will not pronounce this right, so I do apologise. But it's Ariel Jakowski. He's an independent game developer. Basically, Please Fix the Road is a dioramic looking puzzle game whereby you've got a start point and an end point, and you need to basically fix the road to get a vehicle or multiple vehicles from the start point to the end point. There might be various different start points to get to various different end points, mix and match and all stuff like that, different environments, etc., etc. It's all fairly simple stuff, but there's two things this game does really well. One is dioramas for puzzle games are, I love them. I think they are spectacular to look at. There's something so special about looking down on a small area from an angle. I just think they look so good. It's why I think Unpacking looks really good as a game, because of that diorama style feel to things. But also the way the levels transition is so satisfying. Like you might have like they might roll up and then unveil themselves to be the next level, or they might split or just drop in and all different little like really fancy cool animations, and you want to complete one level just to see what the next level turns out to be, but not even what the next level is, just how it gets to the next level. It is such a nice, casual but rewarding experience. I kind of go through, I do maybe 2 or 3 puzzles a day at the moment, and it is just so good. It just plays really well. It's minimalistic. It's not very demanding. You know, you can easily work things out. There's no punishment for getting it wrong. You go back, you have another little thing, you place the roads, or, you know, some of them I think like train tracks or rivers are in there as well. And it's just such a good, satisfying game. And it's brilliant on the Steam Deck as well. Awesome. It's just wonderful just to have there.
Yeah, you can't play Time Crisis 2 on the Steam Deck, which is a shame. I can just imagine holding this massive gun up that's the size of the Steam Deck and the Steam Deck in my left hand and try and shoot at it. That would be very, very interesting. And terrible.
You don't want to accidentally use the Steam Deck as a pedal.
No, that would not end well. But yeah, no, that's checking my notes. That looks like a really good game. Yeah, it's gorgeous for a start.
Yeah, no, the aesthetic is really, really good. Honestly, I meant to talk about this last week, and I played some of it, but we had so much other stuff. I thought I wanted to give this a bit more airtime And it was like, it was like Grindstone was my game of the week. You know, I said how much I loved Grindstone. I didn't want it to share that limelight with Grindstone because it wasn't fair on either game. So I kind of pushed it back to this week because I want more people to hear about it. Because, yeah, it is really good. And I mean, it's not a coffee game because it's a bit more expensive. But do you know what? A coffee and a cake is what this one is.
Nice. Yeah. So what, like 10.99?
That should be our rating system, shouldn't it? Is what can you buy at a coffee shop?
Yeah. So what is it, like 10.99 sort of price?
$7.19.
Okay, yeah, that's not bad at all. Yeah.
No. And I say it's not an offer or anything yet. I just honestly, I really enjoy it. And I say, Steam Deck wise, it's not officially supported, I don't think. It definitely hasn't got the little green tick for it, but it's playable. I had no issues with it. I booted it up. I didn't even need to sort out compatibility layers or anything. Just went on, played it, and it just felt native. So, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's really cool. And also, it reminds me, I have played a new game this week, both new to me and new to the world, or fairly new to the world, which is Lego Builder's Journey, which I picked up a couple of weeks back.
Yes.
Yeah, and I've not played much of it, but what I've played so far is very pleasant. Yeah. So basically, it's like you get Lego, you get like a little task to do in a kind of little abstract floating level. And you have to, build stuff to achieve that objective. And it's, very kind of sweet and clever. It's the main standout for me at the moment is how gorgeous it is, because it uses ray tracing. And if you turn that on, it's that combination of like the Lego movie where you can go like completely ham on the idea of it's plastic, so you can do tons of reflections. And it makes it look really realistic because Lego is already unrealistic looking because it's like abstract human shapes and stuff. And it just, the blend of that and the ray tracing and their design and the music, which is lovely. It seems really, really good. I've not had time to put much into it, but yeah, it's really lovely. And it was only $7.99. It's normally like $15.99. So it's more of a technical kind of exercise, like a technical showcase, than it is a full game, I would say. But even so, if you've got the means, check it out because it's very nice, very lovely.
Yeah, I picked this up as well, and I really do enjoy it. The only issue is I struggle playing some of the levels depending on what my vision's like on that day. There's like a couple of the levels like are sand based, and I can't quite see around the level properly. I can't quite see the bricks properly against the level. So I think a few accessibility options such as highlights around the bricks being different colours, or being able to say, actually, look, you can change the palette a little bit, that would be really helpful. But what I played of it, I really liked. Now, if you like that, what I would say is coming out some point in the next, I want to say year, maybe even later this year, who knows, is another one called Lego Brick Tales, which looks like a similar sort of thing, but it's more Lego set than this is at the same time. It feels more like you're actually playing with Lego, even though Builder's Journey does. This kind of takes it to another level. But this is a Builder's Journey is definitely a great starting point, and I think this does something different with Lego by being Lego rather than the Lego games, which were originally fresh, but for me are a bit stale now. This is perfect. This is what I want from a Lego video game.
Yeah, it's more towards, it's like a vertical slice of what you can do with Lego, isn't it, kind of thing.
Yeah,
and like you say, having a full playground of Lego in video game form is something I'd really like to fiddle about with. I'm going to give that a look, definitely.
Yeah, there's a demo of Lego Brick Tales, so I reckon have a go at that and let us know what you think next week.
I'll try.
So, anything else you've been playing?
Yeah, I've been playing a little bit of Vampire Knight, which is another gun game, another GunCon game on the PS2, and it's like a spiritual sequel to House of the Dead 2, really, because the House of the Dead franchise carried on anyway on its own path, and it's very, very much like that. It's a kind of a lesser one. It's not as House of the Dead's not exactly sophisticated, but it's less sophisticated even than that, and it's just a fairly straightforward blaster. It's got reasonably okay kind of backgrounds. It's not beautiful. It doesn't look anywhere near as nice as House of the Dead 2, but it's fun enough, and it's got that. It does work in contrast to Time Crisis as a series, because there's that frantic reload of you have to fire off the screen to reload, and that's built into the dynamic of playing the House of the Dead games. It's on a lot of shooting games. It's like, oh my god, I'm blazing away, but I'm running out of bullets. Oh, have I got time to shoot off screen to reload? Blah blah blah, and you feel constantly exposed. And it's like a cricket bat. It's like you can use it to hit stuff, but you also need it to defend. And so it's a good dynamic, but it's not in the same league as Time Crisis. But it's a fun enough game. The graphics are kind of okay. They do the job, And it was an arcade game as well. It's fine. It's good. It's not crazy brilliant, but it's decent enough to pass the time.
Yeah, and again, I think the thing with arcade games don't need to be amazing.
Correct. Because
they're not designed to be in-depth amazing games. They're designed to pass a few minutes at times, some of them. I randomly, occasionally put on like Daytona, and I don't play Daytona to get better at Daytona. I play Daytona to have a go. I play Crazy Taxi just to have a go, and I generally only put it on and will play for 10 minutes. Almost, I'll try and replicate what I would have done in the arcade, which is, I've got £1 and that gives you enough for 3 goes of Crazy Taxi. Yeah. And I'll do that now. And it's like, arcade games still can hold that magic. Just don't overthink them. Because
I completely agree.
Because what they are, no arcade game is actually a great in-depth game. They have some great mechanics, etc., but there's a reason why they didn't translate well to home consoles initially, because they was never designed for them. Arcade style games, different matter, but arcade games, just have a blast. You accept their quirks because you don't care.
Yeah, totally. I agree with all of that. They're experiential, They're just like, they're designed to give you a hit of dopamine and give you an experience that you haven't encountered before. And that's why you can never be too wacky with arcade games in the arcade.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's a great big Nerf bat or a set of plastic skis or a fiberglass motorbike thing that you're riding on, or whether it's the Guitar Hero guitar oversized. Doesn't matter whether it's any of that. It's all going to be fun because it's all just in the service of being daft and going back to the freedom of childhood and inventing games and playing stupid stuff. And it's lovely. And Vampire Night is like that. It does not. It's just puddle deep. It's unsophisticated, but it does what it does well. And you can stick 10 minutes on it and come away satisfied.
Good. Again, you're making me jealous.
I do apologise. I do.
So it's my turn now to make all our listeners jealous.
Oh.
Because Steam Deck time. I've been having a ton of fun with the Steam Deck of late, really sort of playing around with different things. I put a video up on how to add your own DRM-free games, if anyone wants to check that out on our YouTube channel, just to show how easy it is, even with my fumbling around and making mistakes by initially thinking I found the game that wasn't existing on Steam Grid database, and then realising I typed the name wrong, so that'll be infuriating for anyone watching. But rather than editing, I just went, I'll just leave that in because that's part and parcel. I don't like tutorials that are perfect because it's easy to make mistakes. I like seeing tutorials where people kind of stumble over a few bits. Personally, but anyway, that's a totally different thing.
No, it's good.
But I've a few bits on the Steam Deck I want to cover. So one's almost an official thing. So I got a hold of Forza Horizon 5 natively on Steam, and set to low settings, FSR, etc. Because it's such a small screen, you don't need anything other than low settings on the graphics. Runs, I did check this out. 60 frames per second, pretty solidly, and it's confirmed one of my long-held suspicions since I first played like Test Drive Unlimited, which I'll come to in a minute, and the original Forza Horizon and stuff like that. These open world driving games are so suited to handheld. That should be their home. Yeah. Because you pick it up, you drive around, you do bits, you haven't got to set the TV up or set your PC up. You just pick it up and you go, and it's so relaxing to be able to do that. So I got Forza Horizon 5. That worked well, and then I thought, Test Drive Unlimited. Now that don't exist anymore. It's abandonware. So you can apparently get hold of abandonware somewhat legally, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I was just reading stuff. But anyway, I picked up Test Drive Unlimited for free, installed that on the Steam Deck, added all my custom art, non-Steam game, compatibility layer, all worked absolutely wonderfully. Apart from it had one of those 2006 quirks to it whereby you had to map the controls manually because it only accepted keyboard on the PC version.
Yeah.
But run really well, got all that sorted after some tinkering. I'm going to play with it some more, and I will put up a controller template on the Steam community controller template thing, whatever it is, for anyone else that wants to do it. But then I found out there's a thing called Test Drive Unlimited Platinum, which is a fan mod remake, so to speak, which uses the original game, but then adds loads of extra cars, textures, radio stations, music, improves the AI of vehicles on the road, all that kind of thing. So I installed that mod, which was really good, and that runs really well. And yeah, it just, again, it's a beautiful on the Steam Deck, even though it's a 360 era game, even PS2, because it was cross-gen. You wouldn't believe it looking at it on a Steam Deck, because again, you take that handheld form factor, and games that would look a bit rough now look wonderful, because it's not an OLED screen. And I've seen some people talk about, we need an OLED screen, etc. Do you though? Do you? Because you've now got access to a huge back library. But I've tried playing on a 1440p monitor or a 4K TV, and they look ugly. But those same games on the Steam Deck look fine. At worst. Absolutely brilliant at other points. Binary Domain, been playing that. It looks wonderful on a Steam Deck. Looks rough as old arses on a 1440p monitor.
Well, I would say, and this is coming from somebody who's faffed around with getting old stuff working on new stuff for years, I would rather have the new technology with a load of sort of software technology in the background to help it look good.
Yeah.
Rather than go, okay, well, we'll use older tech because it will fit well. Just simply because that, older tech is going to go away and stuff like that. And the better you can, for me, like the better you can get the screen on the Steam Deck, the best the new stuff is going to look. And it's nice if old stuff works on it, and you want that as well. But you can fix a lot of that in post, as it were. You can go, I'll stick a load of anti-aliasing on it, or I'll downsample it or whatever to make it look better. But I think the form factor works really well for old stuff, definitely.
Don't get me wrong. If they brought out a Steam Deck 2 in 4 or 5 years and it had like essentially a 1440p or 4K screen on it, you wouldn't need one because you don't need 4K at that level. But if it had an OLED screen, I wouldn't be against it, because other games would pop. But I just think, just looking at it at the moment, it's just not the be-all and end-all at the moment. I think there were some people criticising Valve for not putting an OLED screen in it. But again, I look at it and go, actually, the compromise is spot on because it's helped for what it is now, for the price point and what games look like on it. Because, as I said, The Witcher 3 on the Switch, and I believe other people have said on like the Switch OLED, again, just looks rough. It doesn't on this, because low settings on a PC game with FSR enabled, that does some improvements, and I believe we're not even at FSR 2 on this yet. So it's going to be good. It's going to be good. But yeah, Test Drive Unlimited works really well. I've managed to add, say, all my DRM-free games, or a bunch of them that I really want to try. I've added itch.io's launcher as well as Heroic launcher, so I can get access to my good old games and Epic Games games
all the way down.
Yeah, and itch.io, where I can download native versions of all my hundreds of thousands now from various bundles of games I've got. And yeah, it still works really, really well. And you see people are complaining, going, oh, it's too much faffing, it's too much fiddling, you know, do I really want to get one? And I will make this point about the Steam Deck. If you want what is essentially a glorified updated PlayStation Vita, PSP, Nintendo Switch, whatever, just a pure console experience where you play what's in your Steam library, you can do that. That's not a problem. You don't even need to get a big model. Get a 64 gig model, get a 512 memory card. You've essentially just got good access to great on-deck games only. And that library will continue to evolve. You can do that. If you want to fiddle and you want to do all the other bits, because it is basically behind it, the scenes, it's a PC, then get a 256, a 512 along with those other cards. Because I've not touched another console since getting my Steam Deck, because it covers my Switch games. Because I've been able to take games that I was playing on the Switch on a slightly smaller screen onto a slightly bigger screen, and they run just as well, in some cases better. So I could do that, whilst also having access to Dreamcast, PlayStation 2, PSP, all on the go. And I can take my saves from my modded PlayStation Vita to take my PSP saves from one to the other, etc., etc., etc. And I dare say the longer this thing's out, someone will invent some way of doing cloud saves for your emulated games from it. Because that's what, the modders and everything and these geniuses can absolutely do. And I absolutely adore what I could do for this. So if you want a console Switch, you've got one. You can do that for a little, slightly more than a Switch. But if you want something bigger, you can do that as well. And you can upgrade from a 64 to a whatever, because I did it and I can't see. So, but I honestly, the more I use this thing, I've seen other people going, I'm beginning to see all these little errors with it and stuff like that. The more I use it, the more I'm just having fun with it. And I'm playing games as well. That's the thing. I'm playing games that I haven't played for years on this thing, because I can.
It is funny. I would say there are two really key things with the Steam Deck. One is that, like you said, if you know that you're only wanting to play newish PC games that are guaranteed Steam Deck verified, then it's at the price point with the 64 gig model where that's good and doable. Especially is because if you want to switch over to either your existing PC or a different PC in the future, you're going to carry all your Steam games with you. So it's a good value proposition from that perspective. So the second thing is that if you want games to move away from Windows and to be on an open source platform as the kind of forefront, then this is the way to go, because you're going to start pushing things that way. And people, I think, are getting in the past it was like, oh, I don't want a PC because that's a totally different thing. With my console, and I'm looking at a Mega Drive while I'm saying this, I could just stick in my cartridge, turn it on, and I'm playing. The thing is like these days with consoles, that's not what you're doing. You do have to do management. You have to manage inventory. You have to manage your saves. You have to manage whether you're still going to keep games on your hard drive, or if they're too big, you've got to get rid of them. You've got to make sure you've got an internet connection. You've got to make sure you're doing firmware updates. you know, you're doing a lot of PC stuff already, mate, you know, and it's kind of like the gap, the difference between them is getting shorter and shorter. And once people will eventually, I think, see that, I think you need to bring the deck in the future slightly closer to the Switch experience, you know, whilst at the same time consoles are getting closer and closer and closer to the PC experience, and they're eventually going to pretty much meet in the middle.
Yeah, I totally get you with that. Let's say there's so many little things about it that I've noticed that sort of like going, even a PC. You know, I'm tempted at some point to get a mini PC for emulation for under the TV, because as much as I could technically just basically jerry rig my monitor as a split off to the TV, so it goes out of both into blah blah blah. Anyway, that I can put my PC to the TV as well as my monitor. It's still my PC and it still feels like a PC. Whereas now, thanks to some clever people out there, you can now get the Steam Deck operating system on a mini PC. And it will, like, I didn't realise, like, is it APUs they're called now? The ones that mix the graphics processing units and the CPU?
Oh, yes, that's right, yeah.
Yeah. And even inbuilt graphics now have moved on and they can handle decent games. You know, someone showed I think Forza Horizon running on an a basic Intel graphics chip. I'm just like, Jesus Christ, okay, it's doable. Again, it's low settings, you're not going to get all the shinies, but it makes a playable game. And I was thinking, actually, so rather than just like hook my PC up to the TV, I'll just at some point get a mini PC and stick Steam Deck on it. And then if I really wanted to stream from the PC, I could do that to that anyway. And I've got storage on there, so I can go the other way if I really needed to, and so on and so forth. And all of a sudden, I can see what Valve are doing. They're not stopping these mods happening. They're not doing anything like that. I think Valve are trying to take an expression from the faculty. They're not going in by bashing in the front door. They're not going in. They're going to sneak in through the back door. And before you know it, Valve, via the Steam Deck and Steam OS, are going to be the new de facto as to what you play your video games on.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
And I think what you'll have to do, and I think Microsoft will embrace this, because you, Microsoft, in the gaming division on the whole, are very open to this. I think they will go, do you know what? All right, then. As long as you can get all this working on Windows as well as you are with Linux, whatever you want to call it, then we're all in. We will run Xboxes using Steam OS. I can see that happening. And then do Nintendo have to follow suit? Do Sony have to follow suit? Or, you know, are we going to have a massive ecosystem where Microsoft and Valve are working together to produce what is going to be video games in the future? For better or for worse, I don't know. But the fact that I can play Steam Deck in such a way that I can pop on, let's say, Hades on my Steam Deck, play that, and then without having to do anything, it automatically syncs to my PC version. That's amazing.
First, use face recognition to unlock the...
No phone. And also, if I wanted, I've got Project Cars 2 on my Steam Deck at the moment, which is great. I love playing that. If I needed to clear that space, I delete that, but I can then just stream it from my PC as well, and I still get the same progression that I had. And this is giving me, I've spoke about, you know this, Stu, I've spoke about this in the past, whereby I've said cross-save has to happen, because I want to buy my game once, twice, 3 times, I don't care, but I want to be able to play my one game across platforms, which I still can't do for most games. But I could now play, which is what I want, handheld, TV, PC, and my progression is identical throughout.
Yeah.
That's what I want, and that's got to be what gaming becomes. Whether it's just Steam or whether it's a hybrid of Steam and a bunch of other things, I don't know. But we are heading towards that future, and I can't wait to see what it does become.
Yeah, absolutely, and it wouldn't if it wasn't being pushed like this, because it'd be too segmented and sectioned out by the different, publishers, developers, IP rights owners, everything like that. But yeah, no, it's coming together nicely, definitely.
Proton's just massive. Because again, I've not found a game that I want to play. I'm not saying there aren't any. I've not found the game that I want to play that I can't get running on the Steam Deck.
Yeah.
Because if the officially supported Proton that you get via the Steam Deck doesn't do it, you can, I would say, very much guarantee that if you go to Proton Up, there will be a version of it there that will get it running.
Yeah. Sorry, didn't know if you wanted me to speak then. Yeah.
Who knows when I'm going to stop? Who knows, Stu?
Yeah. No, it's cool. Yeah. It's all very exciting stuff.
This is the Steam Deck. After 3 months with it now, 2 months, 3 months, I don't know. It's changed gaming for me. And I didn't think at over 40 years old that I would be having experience while gaming's changed for me again on the cutting edge. I thought I'd be, just going, well, I like it like this, and that's how we're going to stick to it. Because, it's changed everything.
So cool, isn't it? Yeah, it's a big shift. It's a big shift in, because it matters what the customers and consumers think and how they react, but at the same time, it matters almost as much what the developers get excited about. What they want to be doing. Yeah. Because they will push that forward. Companies like Valve, they'll push that forward, and that's where you'll get your innovation and stuff.
Yeah.
And it really seems to have lit a fire under everyone's imaginations.
With it being essentially a PC, if the developers really can't be asked, and I don't blame some developers, or they don't have the funds to do it, there's a community out there that will go, all right, we'll take up the challenge.
Too right.
I've seen that people have patched in via mods, like certain games that don't have like the 16:10 ratio to it have been modded in. People have modded them in, and that's in there. And then other games have taken note, like Forza Horizon 5 apparently as of a couple of months ago didn't have the 1280 by 800. I might be wrong, but the 800 thingy resolution, didn't have that. Now it does, because they put it in because they saw people were playing it on the Steam Deck. It's not a huge number. Don't get me wrong. The Steam Deck's still not like outselling anything because it's like so hard to get hold of. But developers are seeing that there's a growth there, and they want to get in at the ground floor, because if if I look back, I put Super Lucky's Tale on there recently, and you're the developers, your Playground, is that what they're called, I think, or whatever, but you're Playtonic, and you've made Super Lucky's Tale. If you can go and make a slight adjustment that makes it really work well on the Steam Deck, you could get sales, because there's people who might not have touched that game before that might see it on their great on deck list and go, I'll get that because it works good on the deck. And that's a sale you probably may never, ever have got. And if you could get a couple of thousand sales from that, if you want to make almost extra money now, you've got to do it. So the developers have to be motivated, and you can almost sense that they are. When I look at certain games that are working on this, and I just go, this isn't even for sale on Steam anymore, or this is it's been so forgotten about. It doesn't even have the proper poster box art on it, but it's been updated to work great on deck. So, it's just it just makes financial sense as well for developers to get on board with this and make sure it runs on this. Not for, millions of sales now, but for getting those sales down the line.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's really exciting. It's really good.
Yeah. I could wax lyrical all day. I won't, because people will want to go and do things rather than listen to us. So I'm going to give my gob a rest. Oh, no, wait, before we go.
Oh, no.
Just very quickly, we are going to do the games we're looking forward to. That'll go into next week. But just to give you an idea, I had up my Steam wish list of my top 4 games I'm looking for. So like Tape Recovery Simulator just looks like a really cool, like assemble with care style thing. Can't wait to play that. Curse to Golf, you've probably heard of it if you've watched any recent presentations and that. It's a roguelike golf game set in Purgatory. Brilliant. Spirit Swap, which is a match-free puzzle game. I'm all for those, and it's wonderful, and it supports queer developers, which is also a bonus. And Sam Barlow's Immortality is my #1 game that I cannot wait for. It comes out in less than a month now. I cannot wait. And I will play the hell out of that. But we'll have lots more to talk about next week with those. Have you got any, before we go, Stu, that you want to quickly shout out to tease for next week?
Yeah, well, I mean... my main tease is that I'm not really interested in any of the remakes or remasters coming out. Like, as I mentioned a couple of weeks back, totally fed up with all that now. What I am interested in is Breath of the Wild 2, obviously, because I've got really good feeling about that one. And it's going to be one of those that I'm going to buy, but I'm going to try and get it going on Steam Deck, because I think it's gonna run pretty badly on the original Switch, to be quite honest with you. So that'll be interesting, fiddling around with that. And the other one is the Callisto Protocol, which is by the designer of Dead Space, which is one of my favourite games of all time. So I'm really looking forward to that one as well. And there's a handful of others.
Yes, and we'll go into more detail on those next week, because I'm just scrolling down my list of guys. Actually, if I even mention these now, we're going to be here another half hour. Yeah. So, do you know what, Stu?
What?
I'm going to shut up now.
Okie dokie. So, yes, hopefully we didn't put you too much with the political discussion at the head of the show. But anyway, other than that, yes, as Brad said at the top of the show, it can be a difficult world. It can be a hard place to live sometimes. But hopefully we can bring you a little bit of light, and you can find some light and joy in gaming. So also follow us on our socials and join our chat on Discord if you want to. And in the meantime, stay safe and stay sane.